not contagious. I'm just getting over the cold. If I talk too much, it does nasty things to the throat.
Well,
I was going to say, I'm not contagious either. I'm just hungover.
yeah, we went to the charity raffle for...
I couldn't get there. I just too much on my plate. I wanted to get there.
It was interesting. We learned there were some neat presentations about upcoming...
Welcome back to segment 2 of GrokTALK, coming to you from Concord, New Hampshire. And we would like to thank CNHT, as we always do, for allowing us to use the space that we are in, that you can see on the video if you're watching the video. You can't hear the music. We're working on that. Next week, I think Skip promises to bring us a nice cable that we'll be able to use to connect our phone call in the fourth segment. So you'll be able to hear us having phone conversations. Since we're going to move forward with a lot of phone calls, we want to make sure you can hear that as well on the camera.
Correct.
Hey, we have guests. You can see them. If you're just listening, you can't. But trust me, they are here. Kevin Bloom has returned with guests. And they'd like to talk about some legislative priorities. I'm not going to do a lot of preamble. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and then just have at it.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce my partner in crime, Kirk McNeil.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so legislative priorities, we talked about it. I think it's important that people have a sense of where you guys are headed. And you mentioned 3 in particular. Start with those and let's move forward.
Well, actually, you said you were going to be doing something yourself first, here locally.
Oh, do you want to throw that in? Yes, I'm running for...
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm running for Concord City Council in Ward 4. And I'm one of the slate of new candidates, probably the most candidates ever in Concord's history for city council elections, all caused by the Bearcat. And it's a very interesting story because a grant application was filed with the City of Concord as a sub-grantee to the state, receiving Department of Homeland Security funds. And the grant was for an armored car, a ballistically engineered armored response counter-attack truck with the cuddly name of Bearcat. However, it's just another tank on the streets. And the police chief...
I'm going to interrupt for a quick second because I haven't had anybody in the studio who can answer this question for me yet, since we have talked about this. How many incidents can you think of in the history of Concord where a Bearcat would actually have been useful?
They weren't able to give us any.
None. Okay, that's what I thought. Just checking.
It was, according to one of the city councilwomen, Jan McClure, said that they actually have one, or had an old one from the 80s, and she said in 10 years it was brought out 7 times. And
parades?
We assume parades.
I think there was an ice cream event for the school kids or something like that.
Touch the truck kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Ice cream sandwiches, Bearcat.
So anyway, what happened was they applied for this grant, and this all came to light thanks to the ACLU, oddly enough, who was doing a study on the militarization of police in the United States. And they found this grant application in which it was asserted that domestic terrorists pose a daily threat and challenge to the police force.
I can see that. I can see that. I can barely get to work without running into domestic terrorists on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And they named the Sovereign Citizens, the Free State Project, and Occupy New Hampshire, who haven't actually been active for the last year or so.
I haven't seen them occupying anything.
No, exactly. And I went to one of those things, but that wouldn't... anyway, so it was all a...
Well, it was your day, right? To be a domestic terrorist.
That's right. I told them there's only 7 Free Staters in Concord, and they should know us all by first name, and they could just have asked us out to lunch. And I told them, if you give me $30,000, I'll stop terrorizing.
Bring your domestic terrorist dad to school day. How about that?
Right. It's easy, and now, out of the 7, 2 are running for city council, so...
They're clearly terroristic
the heck out of those guys.
Well, I think, actually, one of the funny things about it is that, they put on the grant application that they were, clearly concerned about domestic terrorists, and now the city council is evidently, to a certain extent, terrorized since 2 of those people are running for office now. And the city council did a whole... ward shuffle. We're going to move people around to respond to these new challengers. The incumbent from your ward is now running at large.
That's right. As soon as
I got into the range, she run against Kevin directly.
They're gerrymandering the wards,
and a Republican took her place who was formerly in the at-large candidate.
Cool.
The Concord Monitor, in the meantime, is saying that Bearcat thing is so over. Why don't you talk about something else? Well, the fact is, That was fraud in connection with a federal grant application, false statements made for money. And so this investigation is not going away. They also said, the city council came out and said, we're amending the grant application. However, ACE Representative Mike Sylvia visited the Department of Safety last week, and they told him that as a matter of fact, the grant application having been submitted in May, it can't be amended. So now we have more lies on top of the other lies, and that story's not going away no matter how much they try to defend.
Evidently what they did is they wrote an addendum, which is a piece of paper that gets stapled to the back of the grant
A
application.
napkin or something.
They probably use just regular 8.5 by 11 paper.
You know what it is?
But it
You know
could
what
be
it
a
is?
cocktail napkin. It'd
It's
be the
like
same thing.
it's like when you come home from Best Buy and your wife goes, "Why'd you buy that?" And you go, "I just wanted it."
Right.
I mean, I look at this whole thing and I see the police, and I'll get myself into trouble, so what else is new? It's a low bar that keeps getting set lower as to why they need all this stuff.
Right.
And I think as we actually demilitarize the military, which is not necessarily a good thing, we're going to see more of this. You start looking at this, we're $17 trillion in debt, and now we're going to put out, between Keene and Concord, that's $500 million worth of stuff that's going to get used maybe a couple dozen times over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
People, the lure of the free money is corrosive. That is the problem. Maybe, in a very urban area, Los Angeles, New York City, Chicago. If any place should have these Bearcats, it's in Chicago to fight the gangland wars that are going on right now. I could see that. But here in Concord,
And they should be handing out guns to law-abiding citizens out of that thing in Chicago. That would stop the problem.
And it's right.
Sure.
Okay,
Well,
that's right.
in that case, maybe an ice cream truck
An
would
ice
work
cream truck.
better. You
You're
could
right,
just
you're right.
repurpose it as
You
a
could
sort of a arm the citizens
put
truck.
pictures of scary rifles on the sides.
Oh yeah.
But I look at this and go, where's the proportionality? I mean, yes, you do not want officers getting hurt. I have no problem with that. But when somebody has decided to lock themselves up in their house and they do have a firearm, it used to be that you'd have a couple of squad cars go up there and you'd talk him down or what have you. Now, they're as well armed as what my son was in Afghanistan.
Exactly, and we had a captain of the Army National Guard who gave testimony at City Council and also in various other places, and he's an active officer, and he said, hey, we've got plenty of armored cars here in Concord. You're welcome to borrow one anytime you want, and also the state police have one up on Hazen Road. So there's not a need. If they actually needed one, they can get it.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to the usefulness of having the Bearcat for the local area and Plymouth University.
Yes.
It's like good response time there. Indeed. I'm sorry, but they've got a couple SWAT teams up there, one from Belknap County, which is again another bugaboo. Mostly rural areas, folks. Do we really need this for somebody who's drunk?
Well, it's interesting to me because if you actually look at the numbers and look at the history of this sort of thing, officer safety is the thing that comes up over and over and over and over again. And nobody is saying they want the officers to be in an unsafe situation.
No.
But they do have to get out of the armored car at some point, and they have to get into it, so...
Well, but the thing about it is, if you look at the trend in policing, the thing that actually keeps officers safe is having them interacting with the rest of the citizenry on a regular basis. And I say the rest of the citizenry because there's been a sort of a troubling change where you see police departments calling other citizens civilians. Well, we're all civilians. If you're not a civilian, you're not actually supposed to be carrying those arms in the United States. That's problematic.
And Radley Balco has been doing a lot of work on that and on this whole topic. And I would suggest anybody just Google his name and start reading some of his stuff.
Including The Rise of the Warrior Cop.
And that's exactly the
All right, we've chewed up 10 minutes.
Yes,
so
I was just about to say.
Get on
move on to other
the
things.
rest of the agenda.
Okay, let's move into this other part of the agenda, and it really ties in well. In fact, these next two do. One is that we've reintroduced a bill from the 2012 session to stop suspicionless checkpoints. And this was actively opposed by the NHGOP leadership. However,
Am I being detained?
that's right. Am I being detained and am I being interrogated? Yes, you are definitely being interrogated. And the thing is, they don't work. And that's the main thing to remember about the suspicionless checkpoints, which are also police roadblocks. Hunting for drunk drivers is actually fairly well worked out by the police. The roam and stop people who are crossing the center line works better. In fact, during the time spent per arrest, it's 28 hours for the suspicionless checkpoints and 18 hours for the regular traditional method. Also, 0.71%, that's not 71, it's 0.71% of the people who are stopped at a suspicionless checkpoint are arrested for drunk driving, while 7.7% are arrested using traditional methods. So we know that it's both cheaper and it's more effective to use the police as they've traditionally developed this process for controlling drunk driving. So we're not saying people should drive drunk, far from it, but we're saying that there are also costs that aren't considered, and that's your time when you're behind a whole bunch of people who are being stopped and interrogated. And there's also the rights that you've lost. You've given up your right to travel freely without roadblocks. So we'll be looking at putting that one in. It did go down in 2012. I think about 2-1 against, but it's one of those things we feel is necessary to bring back up. Also, and this is a real great one, the Asset Forfeiture Reform Program. This one was actually went to interim study in 2012, came out of committee with a 10-0 unanimous bipartisan support for further legislation. So this one we're looking to have the support of the NHCLU, the NHLA. We're going to bring the truly bipartisan legislation. We'll bring it all together, and I think we can get this one through. It actually was worked on in conjunction with the Attorney General's office, strangely enough, and we think there's a pretty solid agreement there that it's going to go through. And what it does is the bill establishes standards. It says if you need to be charged with a crime, you need to be convicted. If you're not charged, you're not convicted, you get your money back. Seems fair, right? Not how it happens now. Now your money is imprisoned. You can be stopped, and most people think, well, they must have done this for a good reason. Not so. You can be stopped in your car if you have a suspicious amount of cash. They can just take it, and they can claim that somehow it was involved in the drug trade or for some illegal activity, whether they have any evidence of it or not, and they keep your money. And you have to prove that you weren't doing anything illegal. And what happens is they can refer it to a federal program with the DEA, and they get a bonus back from the federal government. And oddly enough, some of those funds are used by big cats. So you see they come around the circle here. So that's a big one that we're really going to. Do you want to make any comments on that?
No, you're covering it so well. So I'm going to chime in when necessary.
Okay, well, let's bring up our fun one. So now we're moving off the police state and getting into recreational activities. We have introduced a bill that defines poker as a game of skill with respect to RSA 647-2. It's been proven in court. There was a case called U.S. versus Costina recently where in New York, a guy was charged with online gambling, and they brought an economist on with a study of 415 million poker games played online, and they clearly showed the best players kept winning money and the worst players kept losing money, and statistically proved that poker is a game of skill and not a game of chance. Now, the great thing about New Hampshire's law is that it defines games of chance, and it says that gambling is a game of chance, which is further defined as a situation where the player cannot control or influence the outcome. And clearly, poker is more in the league of bridge and euchre with that respect. Whereas a roulette wheel, you spin the thing, little ball jumps around, where it goes, nobody knows, and somebody wins.
Right. So in a very real way, what we're trying to do here is not really change the gambling statutes. We just want to bring bring the law in line with the fact that poker is in fact a game of skill, not a game of chance. And frankly, anyone who believes it's a game of chance rather than a game of skill, I'd like to play poker with you.
I bet you would. I bet you would. Statistically, you will win. Odds are really good. Well, that's cool. So, what does that get us?
Well, Here's what it doesn't get you. It doesn't get you a bunch of new casinos paid for with taxpayer money. So
Run by the state. Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right.
that just what it does is it removes poker. From
And no
that
offense to
gaming
lobbyists
area.
or anything, but I don't want gaming lobbyists
Right.
all over my
Well,
state.
you know, it means that garage game or that that man cave game of poker is no longer illegal. And strangely enough, when we have all these laws that don't actually make sense, and we all just wind up breaking them anyway, it actually we can circle back to officer safety here. I think what it does is it causes people to look at not just those silly laws, but all laws and go, yeah, whatever. It's only a problem if you catch me disobeying it, right?
Speed limit, stop signs.
Well, it
Sure.
goes back to
Poker.
that whole idea that there's so many laws out there nowadays that if they want you, they can find something to pin on you, regardless. The
Right.
federalization of our entire lifestyle. Whatever happened to citizens being unencumbered by the coercive intrusion?
Right. I mean, it really should be so simple. We have laws that, and really the best laws are the laws that protect your natural rights and that keep you from stepping on other people's rights. You know, we have laws against things like theft, murder. Well, I mean, those are the basic principles. Let's just keep it simple. Don't take other people's stuff and don't hurt them.
Well, the other stuff is,
Works for me.
The other part of the philosophy is that they should be well written, clearly written, to the point where we know what's going on. The ordinary citizen can tell what is good and what is bad defined by the state. It's almost impossible nowadays to keep up with. You know, if the IRS can't tell us what the new tax code changes are, if lawyers can have a lot of battles over what is right and what is wrong, and they're supposed to be on top of all this stuff, what chance do we have?
Sure. I mean, if you think about it, the way that some of these laws read from time to time, if you wrote a paper like that back when you were in high school, your teacher would have handed it back to you and said, this doesn't make any sense. You should really rewrite this and try again. You know, I can't follow your logic thread. I can't follow what the natural conclusions are. Keep it simple.
Actually, we're going to be talking about Common Core with Dr. Cooper in a little bit.
Fantastic.
Speaking of things not making sense.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to something that I think would make a great name for a metal band, industrial hemp.
Okay, thanks for mentioning that. That's a great bill, HB 153, that we introduced and passed overwhelmingly in the House, another bipartisan piece of legislation, and it ended up in the Senate being retained, but apparently there's a very good chance that it's going to come out of committee here in January and fly through the Senate too, because
Vermont.
This is a cool story. Vermont, exactly. And there's a fun New Hampshire component to the Vermont story is that they had passed a law many years ago that said that industrial hemp is legal as long as DEA gives you a permit. Oops. So that never happens. So they decided...
It's like
one
you
of the
can
guys-
drive as long as I give you the keys. Here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Murphy, the guy who runs Vote Hemp out of Vermont and pretty much coordinates it nationwide, was a member of our Facebook group, and they noticed that we put in a bill that took that line about the DEA out, and so they were thinking, oh, well, we'll put this one in Vermont. So it passed, but we did definitely influence the Vermont legislation, and I think it's going to turn for full circle. And that I'm hopeful that the Senate Judiciary Committee will look at that and go, oh, well, Vermont's doing it, so must be cool.
So tell our listeners why having industrial hemp legal is such a great thing, because it is.
It is literally a plant that has all kinds of great uses. And by the way, I'd like to define industrial hemp a little bit. It has basically no THC whatsoever. You can't smoke it. You just get a headache.
Your cough.
Yeah.
A lot.
But it has a lot of strong fiber. The seeds have a lot of protein in them. One thing that it's especially good for is cattle feed. And New Hampshire's agricultural community is almost all dairy related. So this is a great thing that can be, and it grows in New Hampshire. I mean, hardly anything does except for rocks, right? But hemp grows, and it does. It grows wild now.
Rocks, sugar maples, and...
Right. Well, that's good.
That's about it,
Right.
yeah.
And they tried feeding the sugar maples to the cows, and they just got gummed the things and didn't do any good
Yeah, it
whatsoever.
doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
All those
Right.
empty calories.
I think they thought they were going to get maple ice cream that way, but it doesn't really.
But that was from the bear cat, and that was...
Right.
Right, okay.
Right.
Now we're
Yes.
starting to go into that ADD mode
No,
again.
no, we're tying everything together. It's a great big circle.
Right. Well, you can make construction equipment from it, And you can build hempcrete, and the stalks can be used to be mixed with concrete, and they actually insulate, and it's much lighter than the traditional concrete. And a lot of buildings are being built with this stuff now, and it ages very well.
Sure. Seeds can be
Like
pressed
fine
for
wine?
oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Hemp
even
wine?
better, because you don't have to turn it on its side.
Hempcrete. I just love the sound of that.
Yeah.
It just sounds great.
Sure. You can press the seeds for oil and run them in your diesel. So
Another good point.
Biodiesel.
The environmentalists should be all over this. Where are they? Where are the environmentalists on hempcrete? And
I guess
Anybody know?
that's you and me and us.
Okay.
That's the funny thing. Evidently, we're the environmentalists.
I guess
Who
so.
knew?
Have you ever had anybody tell you, "Gee, I hate the environment"? This environment stuff is.
Not if they were running for office. No.
I'm leaving this planet. I'm going to Mars. Going to stay there permanently. And a lot of people volunteered for that.
They did. That's Kepler 22b, by the way, answer.
And hemp won't grow on Mars for us.
I don't think it will. It might grow on Kepler 22b.
You mean the
then.
2% that they just found isn't enough? Of the Martian sand?
Water.
2% water?
Oh, water.
Water.
Yeah. No, it's not quite enough.
No
I think
life.
it's an oxygen.
You'd have to bring your own water.
Ah. That could be problematic.
You'd have to
Could
bring
be.
your own hemp too. So we're
True. Pack a picnic.
okay. All right. You got anything else? What's new? What else is new? Anything?
Oh, I think we're going to find that there's a lot of fun and horrible things coming up in the next
Well.
legislature.
All right. Warn us in advance.
As usual, you're going to have to you'll have to take a look at the LSRs that are coming up. One of the big ones is that there's Steve Shurtleff has been pushing the automated license plate reading system.
Oh, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah, we wrote about that. I remember.
Yes, badness,
Mhm.
and it'll be a good time for people to call their state senator and state reps. It may go through this time, may go through the House, may not. I think if it does, it'll have to be stopped in the Senate, or it's going to be law.
I think this would be a perfect segue because really, when you're talking about automated readers and that sort of thing, my feeling on this is that we don't need to dumb the whole thing down. What we need to do is just teach these officers to read.
Well, we already got that story. I'm going to try here, folks. We already have the story out of New York where they're using the transponders in the Easy Pass all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
It was previously unannounced, and somebody hooked up a couple of lights to their transponder and found that this is going off almost everywhere I go. So, here we talked about the being compared to the NSA earlier by the Hillsborough County folks, we of Granite Grok. And I'm thinking, well, there's a real good place where, the New York State is the NSA of cars.
Sure. Well, and it's not just the government necessarily. I don't like the idea that if I have an Easy Pass, or that if these automated readers are permitted, who's to say which businesses are going to say, oh, well, I can read these RFIDs, so I'd like to find out how many people and who they are that are driving by my coffee shop on a regular basis, so I can determine whether or not to put in a drive-through. Now that's perfectly fine, from just a individual business person saying I want to take the information that's out there, but this isn't it's not
Steve,
okay.
I have a great new business for Granite Grok to get into. Tinfoil hats for cars,
Tinfoil hats.
I
are fun.
love
which
it.
will block the RFIDs.
Even better, I've got a solution that just came out that I saw last night. A product demonstration. It's coming out next month. It's called Snoop Wall, and I'm not being compensated for this in any way. But what Snoop Wall does is it analyzes your laptop and your phone, and you have no idea. They demonstrated last night how much information is being thrown out by your apps. And they asked, does anybody think that your laptop or your phone is secure? And those things are reporting on you all the time. They found out they can turn on your camera at will. They can turn on your microphone at will on your cell phone. There's good job, Steve.
Be nice, Steve.
Give them a taste of the action here, but you will be able to stop that stuff, and it only permits. And basically, Google can turn on your microphone by itself, and most people use these apps like Facebook and Google have no idea that.
I
they're
think
looking back
Democrats
at
should be
you.
really afraid of that because I've always told people that there's no privacy on the internet and not to ever assume that anything you've ever done on your laptop is private. So I don't tend to do anything like that anyway because I'm not like that. But I know plenty of people who wanted to run down, speakers of the House and who are violent in private, probably more so than in public, because they don't want anybody to know they're like that. But if Google knows,
Right, so use startpage.com if you want to have your search that's not picked up and recorded by Google. And IsQuick is another one that does not record your IP address if you type in search terms. For, like, say, you're interested in pressure cookers. I just say, hey, we laugh, and it should
true.
be
Oh,
fun.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, there was that couple that had a SWAT team showed up at their house because they had searched online in Google.
Are you making meatballs?
Well, that turned out to actually be people at the guy's place of business. He was acting a little strange.
Oh.
But yeah, it made for a great story. It really did.
It was a good story.
That's still
Domestic
disturbing
terrorist.
to me because I act
Oh,
strange
yeah.
all the time.
Oh, sure. And who decides who acts strange? The people who own the Bearcat. And
Yeah,
you know.
actually, you know what, Kevin? We're in business together. We're in a lot of trouble because we both act strange at work.
That's right. It's probably helpful that we don't.
But you have to act strange because we analyze legislation all the time.
That's true.
so.
Just by your chosen profession or whatever, it's just bizarre. The fact that we blog, I'm sure our wives and friends are like, "What's wrong with you?"
I mean, we're as transparent as anybody gets. We're completely open as to what we do, and we just drag the rest of you along with us.
And we'd like to thank you for dragging yourselves here to be with us this week. It's great to have you. We're going to have you back because as the LSRs come out, as things become more, we'd like to have you back more often so that you guys, because you're on top of it. So
Fantastic.
there's so
Yeah,
much
love
going
to.
on that we don't have an opportunity to get to everything. If people send us stuff, we're like, oh, cool. But I'm not going to be all the LSRs. So it's not going to happen. My name's Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy, and everybody's leaving, and Dr. Julian Cooper's coming in, and we're going to talk about Common Core. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Good weekend.
All right.
Give those Common Core people hell.
Shane comes on at 10:30, right? Shane's on at 10:30.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. By the way, I want to throw in one thing on the Bearcat.
Oh, yeah.
Nashua has one. Nashua Telegraph, Landrigan, the communist, reported that it's done them supposedly a whole lot of good, and they only haul it out when they're dealing with serious hostage or
I'm bringing if she's home.
what do we
Susan
call
on.
bandit
She's actually
barricaded
supposed
up
to be
kind
on.
of situations.
We knew the
I'm not sure that's the case.
No, I noticed that when they had the shooting.
Although I do think Nashua can make a better
Hello?
case for it than Concord. Because
That's
it's got
Susan?
some pretty poor crime areas.
Let's get out of your way. Yep, I think so.
Good,
guys.
you guys again?
Yep.
It was fascinating listening.
Thanks.
Good morning, Dr. Cooper.
Good morning, how are you?
Can
Very well,
you
thank you.
kill the output to telephone 2?
Eh? What do you want me to do?
Kill the output.
Just nothing's on. I mean, I don't know what you're... Everything's... The only thing that's on is
Hello?
Jingle Box. Actually, after your segment, we're calling a guy in Iowa on Common Core.
Good.
If you want to stick around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what network should I be on?
CNHT one.
It went away, I think.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, you could just find one. We can give you a we can wire
We're not
you.
getting
Oh,
a dial
wait,
tone.
it says it's reconnected, I think. Yes, it has. It's reconnected.
The if you get
What's
the
the
CNHT
password?
network, it's all capitals. Higgins Pig, one word. HIGGINSPIG.
Yep. It's
Sounds
back
good on the camera, doesn't it? Because we are online live.
I'm not getting a dial tone out of line 1.
Do you need me to do something like this? These do anything? This
No,
new
what we
board
gotta
thing?
do is get rid of the output of the board into here. Alright.
Do you need to make a test call, Skip?
I'm trying to right
2-minute
now.
long commercial for a product called New Tone by Alinsky Labs.
Are you calling me?
No.
Okay, my phone.
Thought you said this worked.
It did.
I didn't touch anything. have to start the next segment.
Yeah.
2, 1, go.
Uh-oh. So we can't have our dial-in guests?
GrokTV.